Macduff. For much of the first half of the play, Macduff is an ephemeral character. Whilst it is he who discovers the murder of Duncan, he doesn't really have much of an impact on the plot until Macbeth comments on his absence from the disastrous banquet in Act 3, and even then he is not on stage. Nevertheless, by not attending Macbeth's feast, Macduff is making a clear public statement about what he thinks of Macbeth, so it's little surprise when the news comes that he has fled to England in Act 4. However, Macduff does demonstrate his mistrust of Macbeth even earlier, back in Act 2, even before Banquo has privately shared his misgivings. As soon as Macbeth has been declared as king, in fact. Towards the end of Act 2, Macduff informs Ross that he won't be attending Macbeth's coronation, a very public snub, which would be interpreted as being disloyal, since the expectation was that the nobility would attend to show their allegiance to the new king. Whereas Banquo keeps his suspicions to himself, Macduff shows his doubts more openly. Arguably, this is more unwise, and leads to his family ultimately paying the price with their lives, although the more cautious Banquo hardly fares better. Certainly, Lady Macduff is hurt and confused by her husband's abandonment of her and their family, bitterly doubting his love. Macduff must know that by going to a foreign country to support a rival for the throne would be presented as treason, which places his left-behind family in great danger. Maybe Macduff hopes that by leaving Scotland he will be protecting his family by distracting attention away from them. Alternatively, perhaps he feels that he has no choice, but for the good of Scotland needs to show his support for Malcolm, the true king. Either way, it is a risky strategy. In any case, it is in the final 2 acts that Macduff comes into his own and plays a more central role in the plot. Significantly, this occurs after Banquo's death. It's as though the torch of hope and integrity has been passed from Banquo to Macduff. As a result, Macduff, like Banquo, acts as a foil to Macbeth, symbolizing honesty and goodness against Macbeth's deceit and evil. This is emphasized further when the witches warn Macbeth to beware Macduff in their second set of prophecies. This integrity is clearly presented to the audience when Malcolm tests Macduff's loyalty by pretending to be a greedy, sex-crazed, divisive leader. Whilst Macduff reluctantly accepts the first 2, he cannot stomach the idea of another cruel and weak king, and begins to storm off in disgust and anguish. He is desperate for Scotland to be freed from injustice, not at any cost. He is looking for strong moral leadership. Perhaps the most interesting thing about Macduff is that Shakespeare uses him to present a different model of masculinity compared to other characters. Much of the manliness on display in the story conforms to and reinforces traditional ideas of strong, assertive masculinity. Macbeth is rewarded for his exploits on the battlefield, whilst Lady Macbeth can get under her husband's skin by suggesting that he is unmanly. When Macduff gets the shattering news about his family's murder, he is told by Malcolm to dispute it like a man, to which Macduff replies that he will do so, but, in contrast to his wife's accusation of lacking sensitivity, asserts that first he must feel it as a man. Feeling in Shakespeare's day was seen as womanly, and therefore weak, but to Macduff, emotion isn't a weakness. In a play where there is a lack of feeling and empathy, Macduff and Shakespeare point to an alternative, more nuanced response. Nevertheless, it is Macduff who corrects matters and restores the rightful order by defeating Macbeth in single combat. He wins not so much for himself, but for Malcolm, doing what ironically Macbeth did for Duncan right at the beginning of the play, upholding the true king's authority. Therefore, whilst Macduff may not be a major character, he has a major role to play by reinstating stability and justice.